E-102 Gamma. While he may just be a robot to some people, he's certainly left a lifelong impact on many others, and with his story in the game Sonic Adventure being so immersive and unforgettable, it's no wonder why this robot is looked up to a lot in the Sonic fanbase. And in today's video, I want to talk about how E-102 Gamma showed the importance of sacrifice. Whether we realize it or not, we all have something we need to sacrifice. It could be our time, money, the clutter building up in our closet. Well, you get my point. But we also have qualities that we may need to sacrifice too, like having too much pride in ourselves. Or we may even need to sacrifice an addiction that we have that's holding us back in our lives. I like to think of E-102 Gamma's story from Sonic Adventure when it comes to making sacrifices. And for those of you who have played Sonic Adventure or its port Sonic Adventure DX, you may know what I'm talking about. But regardless of whether you have played either of those games or not, I'd like to walk through E-102 Gamma's story with y'all, as well as give greater insight on how he made sacrifices and show the importance behind it. But before we go on, I'd just like to remind y'all to like this video to help it get out to more people, as well as subscribe to this channel. It'd really mean a lot. So without further ado, let's go ahead and cue that intro. E-102 Gamma is a robot created amongst other E-Series robots by Dr. Eggman. Eggman programmed him like any of his other robots, following his commands, logic, and facts. For him to stay on the egg carrier and work alongside with Eggman, he had to prove himself worthy to his creator. First by defeating his fellow E-Series robot, and more like an older brother to him, E-101 Beta. Then later on, he had to retrieve Froggy from Big so Eggman could get the Chaos Emerald as well as the tail for Chaos. But it's not like Gamma even knew what Eggman's objective was, because all he knew was just to follow his commands. However, after E-102 Gamma succeeded in getting the right frog for Eggman, Eggman banished all the other E-Series robots from the egg carrier. And it gives off a bit of a horrific vibe to us, kinda like Gamma's siblings are being pulled away from him one by one. Yet it didn't faze Gamma because he thought it was only logical that they got banished since they didn't get the right frog like he did. For us humans, we'd definitely be baffled at this. Like, if my siblings got pulled away from me like that, I'd be down in tears. But by knowing that from a human perspective, we could potentially argue that Gamma had a chance in this scene to sacrifice his loyalty to Eggman. But since he's a robot who only understands how to take commands from Eggman, we can clearly see how he's blinded by his loyalty to Eggman, as he has no sense to tell right from wrong. It's just how Eggman programmed him after all. Now with Gamma being the only E-Series robot alongside with Eggman, he gets his next task, which is to retrieve the bird that Amy has. Again, not knowing what Eggman's intention is behind it. Yet along the way to Amy, he enters the wrong room and sees E-101 Beta, his older brother figure, being upgraded and reconstructed due to him losing the earlier battle with Gamma. The scene itself gives off such an eerie vibe as we see Beta's old parts off to the side and seeing the drills at work reconstructing a newer version of him. It's potentially Gamma's first realization that what Eggman is doing to the E-Series robot is morally wrong. But again, as Gamma only understands how to take orders from Eggman, he simply exits the room and says,
"This is the wrong room."
Now with his encounter with Amy, he persisted on getting the flicky like Eggman asked him to. It's not like he really knew the reason why, he just knew that listening to Eggman's orders was what he was programmed to do. It became difficult for him to understand why Amy wouldn't let him get the bird, as is clearly shown in his expression right here.
Does not compute. Why try to save that which is useless to you? Does not compute.
You see, this is something that we humans can kind of relate to as well. Whenever we're in an argument with somebody, we want to prove that our side is correct, even if we can back it up with the most logical facts. But when the other person doesn't agree, and when they have good intentions for us, we eventually get to a point when we need to sacrifice our logical state of mind and just listen to our hearts, which is what Gamma had to do right here, because everything clicked back to him, or at least inside of him, when the flicky flew up in front of him and just stared at him. It was a key to make Gamma realize what was really going on, which goes to show how he sacrificed Eggman's loyalty and put his moral standard above that. Now you gotta admit, it may have not been easy for that flicky to be brave and fly up in front of Gamma like that. For all he knows, Gamma could have just simply taken him and brought him to Eggman. But he opened his heart and put his trust in Gamma, because he may have just knew that there was a Flicky inside of him wanting to get rescued. But not just that, he also had faith that he knew he would get through to him. Now despite that Gamma did change his heart for that moment, he didn't change in the long run, because as we see later, he does go back to listening to Eggman. You see, whenever we have to sacrifice something, we usually just do it for the moment, and not for the long run, because we usually resist change, and this was no different for Gamma either. As soon as Gamma was about to shoot Sonic, Amy came in the way to stop him. And if you think about it this way, Amy opened her heart and had faith in Gamma that he'd listen to her, and after the talk, Gamma was inspired to look within himself once again and realize the wrong in what he was about to do. So he put his gun down, which yet again shows a sacrifice he's making to his loyalty to Eggman. Not entirely understanding why Amy is helping him, he asks her why she's helping him, and Amy replies,
I told you we'd be friends the next time we met. Even Birdie wants the best for you. You must ditch that awful Eggman.
We can clearly see here how Amy and the Flicky both have good intentions for Gamma. And this proves the point that whenever somebody really cares for us, we sometimes need to let go and sacrifice our pride in order to get some insight to live a better future. As the egg carrier is crash landing, and Gamma was on his way landing in the Mystic Ruins, he reflects on his data and sees the other E-Series robots, Amy and Eggman. And it's at this point when he comes to realize after talking with Amy, seeing the Flicky, and seeing what happened to his brothers thanks to Eggman, it all leads up to the climax, where he finally decides to ditch Eggman and save his brothers by rescuing the animals inside of his fellow E-Series robots and himself. This is a good example of showing us that we need to see a pattern of events in order to be convinced that we need to sacrifice something in our lives. In Gamma's case, he realized all the wrongs in blindly serving Eggman, and once and for all sacrificed his loyalty to him, which later on makes him sacrifice his brother figures to free the animals that are trapped inside them. It's kinda dark, but the thing is, by sacrificing his brothers in order to free the animals inside them is a really noble thing to do. So as Gamma goes around destroying the prisons that his brothers have been trapped in, he's doing a good deed in the end of the day as he frees who they truly are inside. After defeating the Egg Series robots he thought of, Gamma came to the realization that in order to rescue the animal and himself, he had no other choice but to make the ultimate sacrifice, which is himself. But after he sees his older brother figure, E-101 Beta, fly by, he realizes that not only he has an upgraded form, he also realizes that he needs to fulfill his mission to rescue the animal in E-101 by sacrificing him as well. Which Gamma does later succeed in defeating his older brother E-101 Beta, but he at least shows a little bit of sympathy as he walks up to him, but Beta shoots back at Gamma with his last blow, leaving Gamma limping. At this point, Gamma probably questions his own missions in sacrificing his brother figures since he got shot back from Beta. But as he sees that bird come out of Beta, he gets re-encouraged as to why he sacrificed Beta and all his other brothers. But not just that, because after seeing that bird that was inside Beta, he also starts to remember how he's family as he sees the image of the bird's family together. It's all clear to Gamma now that to fulfill his destiny, he needs to sacrifice himself to let the bird and himself reunite with their family. And while it may have been a hard decision, Gamma makes the ultimate sacrifice of himself, as we close the story with such a beautiful scene, which I'll show right now. Playing through E-102 Gamma's story again really brought back lots of memories, and helped me remember why I love Sonic Adventure so much. Looking back at his story, we see how his character developed and changed as he went through times of questioning himself and his loyalty to Eggman, and all it took for him to sacrifice his loyalty to Eggman, his brothers, and himself was to see the Flicky that was with Amy, listen to Amy's advice on ditching Eggman, and open his heart to free his true self and reunite it with his family. It got me thinking that sometimes in life, we need to let go and sacrifice something that we may or may not realize is holding us back from finding and bringing out our true colors to the world. It could be pride, an addiction, shyness, whatever comes to mind really. I know it may be hard to sacrifice and let go of things sometimes, but do realize that you can make sacrifices on a small scale too. Like if you buy food for someone who's hungry, you're sacrificing your money for that. Or if you're washing the dishes for your parents, you're sacrificing your time for that. I could say that I sacrificed my time to make videos for y'all, but I mean, I enjoy making them, and I hope y'all enjoy watching them too. But the point I want to make is that we need to make sacrifices every now and then, because in the end of the day, it shows that we care for one another, as well as for ourselves. So I'd like to leave y'all with this one important question. Would you make a sacrifice for the ones you love? Thanks for watching, and as always, Eternal for life.